Hey, y'all. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in to the Missing Piece podcast. Welcome back. Hey, this is episode 4, and I am Cruz Ramirez, and we're with Jared Neiman, and we are so excited. Jared, we're getting closer to the launch of your book, man. How excited are you about that?
I'm so excited. Been 2 years in the making.
Come on, man.
And the countdown, and I feel like it's been this just, once I finished the book, it was like this slow wait now to release it.
Yeah.
We're really close. I'm excited.
So I'm going to geek out with you. Like, do you know off the top of your head how many words are in the book?
It's over 100,000.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
20 chapters.
That's awesome. How many hours would you say it took to write the book? Just in case there's any like aspiring authors out there.
Oh my goodness. How many hours it took? I would say each chapter probably took about 4 hours for the initial write. And then, of course, there were multiple edits after that. But that has nothing to do with the 2 to 3 years worth of studying that I did on the topic.
And all the life experience,
and
right?
all the life
experience.
Of
course. You know, well, this podcast is essentially to introduce the world to your book, but more importantly, to take elements of the Missing Piece book and help people find what they've been looking for, right? The missing piece, and bring it into their day-to-day, right? And I think that's so important, man, because how crazy has day-to-day gotten in the last couple of years, right? Like just busy, go. Like I was talking with someone earlier about just kind of like, I mean, I grew up in Southern California, and so like LA's always been just like go. When I moved to El Paso, it was just like, yo, El Paso's so chill. But now it's like, no, man, like we go.
Right.
How busy is life right now, right?
Oh, life's been very, very busy, hectic. I mean, 2 little kids. My wife's life is very busy, very demanding. She's in the city attorney for El Paso.
No big deal.
And then of course the church and working through this last year with the pandemic. The other day I had 9 hours of appointments, starting at 8 a.m.
I saw your Outlook calendar, dude.
Finished
like
at 5,
stacked.
and from 5 to 6 I had a break to then get ready to preach on Wednesday night at 6:30. And it's sometimes life gets chaotic. It's wild.
It's so interesting to me, right? Because like, so we're recording this right now, and it's summertime. Our kids are off. We both have 2 kids, and they're elementary school age. And we were talking about like, hey, what are you gonna do with your kids this summer? And it's like, me and my wife, we were like literally trying to figure out how to fill almost every hour of every day just to keep them moving. It's so interesting that's kind of the pace for life, right? That's kind of the norm now in society, where it's just like we're just moving, and we're always like going, and there's not a lot of stopping. And I wonder how much of that is really we just really want to be involved in volleyball and take on golf lessons or how much of that is really just, first of all, we don't know how to stop. Number 2, we don't want to stop. Right, because if we do, we have to like stop. We have to think about what's really going on in life, and we have to like make eye contact with issues in life. And but Jared, let's be honest, right? And let's talk about that. A stop is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, today we're talking about chapter 5 in your book, which is a fresh start, right? And I love how peace comes into our life and gives us the opportunity of a fresh start. But sometimes you can't have a fresh start unless you have a fresh stop.
Right.
So
every once in a while in life, you can get so busy and get so chaotic that you lose track of certain things or habits that are being formed that are not productive.
Wow.
Or let's put it this way, they're not healthy.
Yeah.
For yourself, maybe physically, mentally, or in your relationships, financially, maybe all of the above, depending on how big the habit is. And a lot of times our busyness is just that. It's just busyness. It's not productive. It's not enhancing an area of your life. And then you mix in that busyness with just the stress and the complication that life brings. A lot of times it's consequences to our own behaviors or just things that happen in society, right? You might be driving along and someone rear ends you. Or, you're your teenager did something at school that had pretty dramatic consequences, and now you've got to deal with it. Or something happens in your marriage, or you got laid off because of greed in New York City, right? The higher ups, and you got laid off. They got bonuses, you got fired. And so life happens, and if you're not careful, chaos comes in, or confusion, disorder, and all of it is designed by the world to rob you of your peace. Again, health, welfare, prosperity, and good things, blessing, tranquility
Right,
in your heart and mind. And so that chaos, that disruption, that confusion, this is a great question for someone to ask themselves. Do I have clarity in my life right now? Because if not, I would say to you, you don't have peace. You have allowed confusion, you have allowed busyness to have authority over your soul, your peace of mind, and it's producing chaos. If you can't get clarity, if you can't get rest, if you can't slow down and look at your life and see where the adjustments need to be made. And it's so important that we do that on a continual basis.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it comes off so counterintuitive though, right? Because popular culture is all about hustle. Like hustle and grind, hustle
Right.
and grind.
And that's
hustle
great if
grind.
it's producing good things.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if the condition of your heart, like, we talked about that the last episode, like how's your soul? All that hustle and grind, how's your soul feeling? And you said something a couple moments ago. You said like chaos, confusion, disorder. You might need some peace, and you might be missing some peace if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling chaotic, if you're feeling disorder, But there really is health, right? And just taking a moment to pause. Like, here we go. Preachers are on the mic, but like, even God took a break, right? He hustled and he grinded and he moved and he built for 6 days.
Yeah.
And then on the seventh day,
He stopped,
right?
He commanded it to the nation of Israel to have a Sabbath day.
And make it holy. And make it
Get
precious
rest.
for you. Yeah.
Stop, slow down, be with your family, relax, chill.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we don't do that. Or sometimes we'll rest, but we're not resting in the healthiest way, or we're resting to avoid the issues. So we go over here and rest, but there's issues here in our lives. And a lot of times what you need to stop is the problem areas. So let's use examples. You stop eating bad before you get a bad doctor's report. Or you stop drinking so much before the doctor tells you you have cirrhosis, right? So you stop not exercising before you get arthritis. So a lot of times we need to take stock of our lives and ask ourselves, are there things I need to stop so that I can start something new, but that new thing I'm going to start is going to bring peace.
Right.
It's going to bring health.
Right.
It's going to help me to live better, live in better relationships. Or just stop treating your spouse a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So you stop so that you can start something else.
Yeah,
It's
I like
start.
that. I like that thought a lot, because a lot. Again, there seems to be a little bit of a stigma against people who stop and it's like, oh, he quit. You're just a quitter, just gave up. But the truth is, if you can stop on your terms, and not on the terms of a consequence, right? Not on the terms of like an adverse outcome.
I would say that's not quitting. That's wisdom.
That's brilliant.
So that's not quitting. That's wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge applied to your life, right? So wisdom is, I'm looking at my life here and this isn't good. And I need to stop doing that and start doing something else. So that's not quitting. Quitting is leaving your job without another job, and now you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage and feed your family.
Apathetic, and it's an emotional
That's quitting.
reaction, and so I think what I'm hearing you say is that, so in the moment where I choose to stop something that's taking me where I don't want to go, that's making me pay more than I can afford, right? That peace can be found in an abrupt start or stop. Peace can be found when I recognize that I'm choosing this for the better outcome, that I'm choosing this because I'm going to choose life. So I'm choosing to stop going in this direction because I'm expecting a fresh start towards a new direction.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's a great way to view your life. And I think it's a challenge for everyone. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to be very introspective and really look within yourself. Sometimes you have to give up things you enjoy, but they're not healthy. Like I enjoy ice cream, and I used to eat, pints of ice cream.
What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
Oh, Cold Stone. I love Cold Stone. Okay, this is disgusting. So I would go.
I promise you, it's not going to be disgusting. I promise you.
No, it tastes good, but it's like 2,500 calories. I would go every Sunday night, and I would get the large, and it was the sweet cream ice cream, 2 brownies, 4 Reese's peanut butter cups,
oh, man.
Hot chocolate and caramel all put together. I mean, it would just overflow. On the way home, I would get French fries from McDonald's.
Shut up.
So the drive home.
Oh, that's next level, dude.
The drive home was the French fries. At home was.
Did you ever mix? Did you ever dip the fry?
There's nothing better than that. Of course I did.
Oh my gosh,
sweet and salty, right? It's the greatest
best.
thing. But I started to realize it was messing up my stomach, so I, had to stop doing stuff like that. I mean, a lot of times you just need to look at your life and just ask yourself, is what I'm doing producing what I want? Am I praying prayers and asking God to help me, but then I'm the contradiction to the prayer? And is there an area of my life I've allowed chaos? Chaos isn't all just societal disruption. I mean, there can be, because the definition of chaos is simply confusion and disorder.
So that means that chaos doesn't even have to be cataclysmic. It's not like this huge tragedy.
It's just confusion, disorder.
Wow.
Things are out of order.
So we live in quiet
confusion.
chaos all the time.
All the time.
Wow, man.
It can get within our soul. It can get in our minds. It can get in our marriages. It can be on our team, in our job. And just because we're angry at someone on the team, we start living in disruption with them. And so we don't function in a healthy manner. And then it stresses us out. It robs us of our highest level of development and performance on the team and produces consequences because of that behavior, right?
Well, I love that this episode has taken away the stigma and has taken away even guilt and shame from stopping, right? And we inject peace in that because in the stop, there's always the hope and the expectation of the fresh start. As we're talking about this, I'm thinking about what our church teaches, right? On how Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, beginnings and endings. And when something ends the right way, there's always an Omega moment,
new beginning,
or an Alpha moment,
right? In
that moment, in that. And I hope you guys are hearing that, right? That there's no shame in stopping. If you're stopping so that it gives you the opportunity to choose life and not death, it choose peace and not chaos. And in that choice to stop, Jared, there is now the expectation of a fresh start. When we come back, we're going to talk all about the expectation and how peace has a huge part to play in the fresh start in your life. And here's the good news. Wherever you're at in life, you can always expect peace and a fresh start. We'll be right back. Hey, all right, welcome back to the podcast. Episode 4, we're talking about stops that are done the right way with peace will lead to a fresh start. God wants a fresh start in our life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, He is always making things new. That's His promise, right? He makes all things new. And so in that, Jared, let's just talk practically about how we should process the decision to stop the negativity, to stop the disorder, to stop the chaos and confusion, and say, you know what? No, man, I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take that. You're really good at teaching it practically. But I want to pull on your experience a little bit, man. You share several moments in the book where you said, you know what? No, I'm going to stop this so that I can start that. One of them included Carla, who's your wife, on your wedding day, right? You want to talk to us a little bit about when you quit a pattern in your life and you quit, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's several things that Carla spoke into my life. One of them was I smoked for, I think, 13 years. I was completely addicted to it. And as we were dating, she looked at me. Once we got engaged, she actually said, "Yes, I'll marry you." The next day she said, "But I won't marry you smoking."
Wow.
And so she said, "The night before our wedding will be the last day that you smoke."
So let me push pause here, because you both are like super alpha personalities,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like, so what were you thinking that in that moment? Like, did you like buck a little bit? Like, were you like, we'll see, or did you say, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to make a choice"?
No, I said yes, and I committed to it because in all the years of trying to quit smoking, I loved smoking more than everything else. Carla was the first moment in my life where I loved her more than I loved
Yeah,
the addiction.
that's incredible.
And so I saw my future with her, and I finally, in that moment, was more committed to having a healthy future than I was to this thing, this vice that I carried with me for so many years. And that's really the question in your life is, what do you want your future to be?
Yeah,
because the
that's a big idea.
decisions you make today will define the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as hard as things were, I mean, I had a honeymoon where I was like fiending and having withdrawals, you know.
So did you quit like your wedding day the
I
night
quit
before you
my
went in?
wedding day.
Wow.
Right. So literally the morning that I got married, I smoked my last cigarettes, plural. I mean, I got to be honest, right? So,
Yeah.
and then, you know, my honeymoon, I was like having withdrawals, but it was fine because I was committed to the future I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was willing to make the short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times that's hard, but the benefit of that difficulty far outweighs the challenge. And so sometimes you just have to simply overcome yourself. You have to overcome your physical and mental self, like your selfishness, your selfish desires, your wants, because that want in the moment is not actually going to produce what you desire in the future. And that's a lot of times what stops us from having peace and having the fresh start. We a lot of people, if you really know the word, you know Isaiah 43, that God's the God of new things. And he is. God wants to do new things in people's lives, new opportunity, new joy, new health, new favor, new ideas, new solutions. He's the God of new things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But too often, we don't see or experience the new things because we won't stop the old. You know, we won't simply say no to what we've been doing to open ourselves up to the
what
new
he's
thing
gonna-
God wants to do.
And it really is that fundamental, right? It really is that. I guess the word is simple. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like it is. You know, it is hard to make a choice. Like for all of us, if change was easy, we'd all have six packs, Jared Neiman, right? Like if change was easy, if it was like easy to make that choice.
Right.
No, it's simple. We all know what it takes, right? But it's hard. But it really is that. But it really is that simple. As you were saying that, I'm thinking about what God said in Deuteronomy. Look, I call heaven and earth before you this day as witnesses, and I place before you two choices: death and life. Right? You choose. Then he helps you cheat on the multiple choice test, right? Like he's like, and choose life.
Choose life.
So I can bless you,
Right.
and it'll go well with you. Right?
And he says, so that you and your descendants, because your choices affect the people around you. It goes down the line. So you make healthy choices. I mean, they've proven 60, 70% of young girls marry men that replicate their father. 60, 70% of boys marry
Wow.
women that
Wow.
show the characteristics of their mother, good and bad. I mean, it's amazing. I think it's 64%. I didn't look it up before this podcast. But I think it's like 64, 70% of young girls whose fathers were alcoholics, they marry alcoholics. I mean, it's amazing how patterns go into not just our lives, but our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. And if unhealthy, it takes some person down the line to say, well, I may have inherited this, but I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm choosing a different path.
Right.
I'm going to allow a new beginning to come into
Right.
my family. And I don't know what you all have done, but it's not going to stay here. And so often in life, though, it's not that big. I mean, you can simply just stop cussing so much. You can stop not responding to your spouse and looking at Instagram, right? So they're talking to you, and you're more concerned with what's happening with a person in Hollywood.
I love that you bring it up, bring that up, because like I do understand, and you know, in what we do, we deal with a lot of people, a lot of different scenarios, right? And there are scenarios that are clinical, like there. I mean, some
Huge.
people have real neurological disorders, imbalances, all of that. Not minimizing their experience,
Yep.
but man, a great majority of how we deal with, who we deal with, it's like, man, this is on you.
Right.
Like this really is a choice you're making. And you know, there's a statement that you made that when it came to this which was, hey man, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Like this is on you. Stop blaming the whole world and stop saying it's everyone and everything, but the fact that you have the responsibility of choice. One of the things that I love about you consistently is that you just cut straight to the point and you just confront immediately, right?
Right.
And one of the things that jumped out at me when I was reading this portion of the book was how much responsibility you put on the reader, you put on us when it came to like, are you going to choose peace? Are you going to stop and say, you know what, this isn't going to lead me down down the path and the life that I want or hope for? Then why do you keep doing that? Right. So let's talk a little bit about the expectation of, like, we get it. We need to stop spending $12 at Cold Stone on Sundays. We get it. Okay, I hear you, Pastor. Okay, I got it.
and the French fries.
You know, but let's shift gears a little bit. Like when you're expecting fresh starts in your life, right? Like when you're looking at new horizons in your life, right? Just as Jared Neiman, son of God, right? Jared Neiman, man, father, right? Like what does that expectation look like? I know a big part of when you talk about fresh start in the book comes from Psalm 51.
Yeah.
You know, create in me all of this new. Unpack that for us. I mean, you can go all day as a pastor. Talk to us a little bit of just as a man, what that sounds like for you in terms of your expectation when you're expecting the fresh start in your life.
Yeah, so, you know, I've taught on Psalm 51 a lot, and it's a psalm that David wrote after he had an affair with one of his best friend's wives. He then goes on to have that man killed, and chaos erupts.
100%.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's everywhere in his life,
Yeah.
and it will stay there for a few years. He deals with the consequence of that choice for many years.
With his children also.
And even other children. But there's a statement in verse 10 in the Message translation where it says, God, give me a fresh start. Shape in me a Genesis week from the chaos of my life. And I don't know why that has always just jumped out at me. A Genesis week. I mean, Genesis is a new beginning. A Genesis is order from chaos. And that's who God is. God is the God of decency and order. And every time that I read that chapter, that I think about it, that I meditate on it, that it comes up in my mind, I ask myself this question: is there chaos that I created? I can't control societal chaos. I can control how I respond to it, but I can't control it. Like nobody could control that there was a pandemic. Like, couldn't control that. Couldn't control that your business got shut down. Couldn't control that you had to wear a mask and all these other things for all this time, right? Couldn't control it. Now I could control my attitude towards it, but I can't control what other people do. But I can ask myself, is there something that's out of order in my life? And immediately then I ask the Lord, okay, Lord, give me wisdom in that situation, and you help me bring order where there was chaos in my life.
I love that.
Give me a fresh start.
I love that. I love that. And I love that that you mentioned the Genesis week, right? Because sometimes the fresh start isn't downloaded and happen all at once.
Right, it's a
There's
period of time.
There's a process to
Yeah.
it, right? How do you find peace? Or, I mean, obviously God has already given us the peace. How do you apply peace and walk in peace as the fresh start is going, right? Because if we're talking the Genesis week, Genesis 1, God does it over 6 days,
Yeah.
however long that was at the beginning, right?
Right.
Every time there's a method to it, he looks at it, he calls it good, but he didn't complete it all in one shot. So sometimes a fresh start doesn't come in one day, in one season, in one year.
Of course it doesn't.
Right?
I mean, that's just logical, right? I mean, say you've had a bad habit for 10 years. You're probably not going to completely uproot it on a Monday night. I mean, just because a pastor, spoke a good message in church, like, okay, now my entire life's changed. No, like, you've got to take time and start making decisions to change that pattern within your life. What I try to do is just remind myself of the result that's going to come from these changes.
That's great.
And although there may be a period of time that's a little uncomfortable, where I'm not seeing the result yet, where it's kind of hard, where it's awkward, there's awkward to change. It's just awkward. You kind of get stuck not in the black and the white, you're in the gray area when you're making changes and the results haven't come.
Awkward.
Right? So it's awkward, but I keep reminding myself, okay, what was not producing what I wanted. I was in chaos. It was tormenting me. It was destroying my relationships. It was producing something unhealthy in my body, whatever, right? What I'm doing now is going to produce. And I remind myself of the end game, where I'm trying to go, the finish line. And as long as I encourage myself in that, I find I can continue to take steps. And even if you kind of mess up, right? Like say you commit, you're going to change your temper, right? You're going to get under control and you go 3-4 weeks and you do great and you lose your temper. Okay, you lost your temper that day. Don't then revert back to the old habit. Don't let, I heard my trainer tell me one time, don't let your cheat meal become a cheat week, right? So you messed up. Don't let it now once again become the habit, right? Just allow that, setback to be the setback, but keep going forward. Keep moving on.
That.
Keep
I love that.
allowing the Genesis week, the new beginning, the new idea, the new solution, the new habit to form in your life.
I love it. That's really good expectation management, right? Because a lot of times we'll expect it to happen overnight, and it won't. But hey, you're a good work. God's at work in your life, and there is a fresh start that is promised to you. I love that, man. This episode really blessed me, dude. It really, really did. Hey, listen, thank you so much for tuning in. Just want you to walk away with a couple of things. Number one, you don't have to live in chaos. You don't have to live confused. You don't have to live in disorder. God wants there to be a fresh start in your life. So maybe after we sign off, maybe what you can do is, first of all, follow Jared. Shameless plug, right? Shameless plug, right? But
buy the book.
Yeah, buy a book. No, but honestly, buy a book, right? Because we're barely skimming the surface on the content. But you can get the book, jaredneiman.com/The Missing Piece. And make sure you follow Jared on social at Jared Neiman. But maybe after you tune in today, maybe you just to go take a moment and you really just assess, right? And then you begin to address, where do I need to stop and where do I need to start? And as you're expecting the fresh start and you're believing for the fresh start, have peace in this. I say to myself this way all the time, Jared. I say, I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be, right? So we're believing that the peace of God is for you and in you. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.